Welcome to Cloudcast, where you get an inside look at St. Cloud, Florida's local government. Whether you live, work, or play here, we're bringing you the information you need to better understand your city. Cloudcast is hosted by our communications team, including Mariama Batchelder, Andrew Sullivan, Deborah Carson, and Jay B. Miller. Thanks for listening in to Cloudcast.
Well, welcome back, St. Cloud, to another edition of Cloudcast. This is Mariama, and I'm in studio today with our special guest, Cameron from Public Works. So, Cameron, welcome.
Hi, great to be here again.
So we are here to talk a little bit about our favorite topic, and that is traffic, and as it relates to both motorists and pedestrians and bicycles and so forth. So I know the city has a project coming up on Michigan Avenue, which gets a whole lot of all of those kinds of traffic. There's 3 schools there. We get a lot of drivers. We get bicycles. We get kids walking to and from school and so forth. So I know that we have a project coming up that's designed to increase and enhance the safety of people utilizing that road. And this all grew out of a study that was conducted in conjunction with MetroPlan Orlando. And if you listen to our podcast regularly, you may remember we had them in not that long ago and talked about some of the projects that are happening regionally to address traffic concerns both today and into the future. So our partners over at MetroPlan Orlando conducted this study. And Cameron, tell us a little bit about what that study found as it relates to St. Cloud and Michigan Avenue specifically.
Sure. Yeah, it was a couple of years ago. MetroPlan Orlando, with their consultants, looked at a bunch of different pedestrian bicyclist corridors throughout their 3 counties. And in Osceola County, they looked at Michigan Avenue here in St. Cloud. They did some spot speed studies. They looked at the crash reports from 2019 and then 5 years back. And they discovered that the speed that the vehicles were traveling on Michigan Avenue were too high, and that contributed to some vehicle crashes.
Yes.
Also, in that same time period, there was 2 bicyclist crashes and 1 pedestrian crash in that corridor, and so that raised a lot of red flags.
Sure.
So they came up with some improvements specifically designed to reduce vehicle traveling speed on Michigan Avenue and increase pedestrian and bicyclist safety. And they made those recommendations to the city, and we took the ball running with that, and we got an engineering consultant to come in and design those specific improvements to our corridor, and that's what we're doing here in the next couple weeks.
Okay, great. And we talked about speed, and that is always an issue, and there's been a real focus in the last year, especially regarding speed in school zone areas and so forth. I know our St. Cloud Police Department has stepped up enforcement in those areas. Coupled with the enforcement, though, there are some, for lack of a better term, I'm going to call engineering solutions of things that we can do to help with visual cues for drivers that there are pedestrians and bicyclists in the area, and just look to build things into that corridor that make it safer for everyone to use. So talk to me a little bit. So Michigan Avenue is kind of a long road. Like, what section are we talking about for these improvements that will be coming up here soon?
Yes, the corridor is Michigan Avenue from 10th Street down to 19th Street, where the schools are.
Okay, great. And what types of things, and let me back up a half a step, we're getting ready to start construction on building some of these improvements here in the next few weeks. And so by February, March or so, we should start seeing these things starting to be built, correct?
That is correct. Yes, we got city council approval for the contractor's bid in January, and so right now we're working behind the scenes getting all the ducks in the row, getting the contract signed, the purchase order issued to get our project kicked off.
Okay, so let's get down to brass tacks here. What kind of improvements are we going to build, and how specifically are they going to help address the safety concerns? Certainly,
and you talked about this just a few minutes ago. The engineering enhancements, we call them traffic calming. It's improvements to the road which reduce vehicle traveling speed. and we've got a couple different improvements on this corridor that we're proposing and we're going to put into place. We have traffic islands, which are medians that go in the middle of the road, which narrow the travel lane, which causes vehicles to slow down.
Sure.
We're also going to put in some textured concrete raised crosswalks, which will be visual and textural cues to vehicles to slow down.
So you'll actually feel that as you're driving over, right?
That's correct. And also, it encourages pedestrians to walk on them as well.
Sure.
And we're also putting in signage and striping and redoing some of the sidewalks to square up the intersections just to make it a little more obvious to pedestrians and vehicles where the pedestrians will be crossing the street.
Okay. And of course, it's very important for pedestrians to use marked crosswalks, especially in corridors like this. I know anytime you get mid-block crossings, you're increasing your likelihood, because I think many drivers are, you're sort of expecting it when you see a crosswalk that, hey, there could be a pedestrian, but if they just come darting out in the middle of the block and there's no crosswalk, it's certainly a lot more of a surprise for motorists. As far as slowing down the traffic out there, you talked about these raised medians. So it's not any adjustment in the speed limit. I mean, the signs are posted that the speed limit is what it is, but this, obviously, the study has shown people aren't following the speed limits, and I know we've, like we talked about, had enforcement initiatives out there, but this is just one more way to kind of make it more difficult for you as a driver to be driving quite that fast on that corridor.
That's correct. Yeah, the posted speed will remain 25 miles per hour and reduced speed during school zone hours. And as a travel lane gets more narrow, just naturally people start driving slowly. If you think about a big wide open road with 20 feet wide, you're going to drive real fast.
Yeah.
But the more narrow the road gets, the slower you just naturally drive.
Yes.
So that's what we're going with. And then also the textured crosswalks, the additional signage. And one other thing we're doing with OUC is we're improving the streetlights in the corridor down by the school.
Okay.
Specifically at the crosswalks. Just because sometimes in the mornings, it still could be a little dark out when the kids are walking to school.
Yes.
So the street lights will help vehicles see the pedestrians.
Okay, so we're going to have better lighting. We're going to have medians that should help kind of calm traffic down, slow it down a bit. And in addition to enforcement that's going on out there. And then are there, with the crosswalks, are there new places that are going to have crosswalks that aren't currently marked, or is this just an upgrade in the type of markings?
It's both. We're redoing a lot of the existing striping, but we're also adding some additional striping and crosswalks as well.
Okay. Now, the kind of raised textured markings that you're talking about, is that different from what we would see at a typical crosswalk, or is it just it's fresh and going to be new and more obvious?
It's textured concrete, so they're going to pour the concrete and then they're going to stamp it with a design.
Okay.
And it's you can see it better, you can feel it when you drive over it. It'll be different from what you typically see at an intersection.
Okay. So no excuses to say you didn't see the crosswalk. And let's talk a little bit about state law. I know we do, in conjunction with a regional effort, several times a year, a program called Best Foot Forward, where we send police officers not in uniform out to walk through crosswalks and see if people are stopping or not. Talk to me a little bit about what the state law requires, just so people are clear on that.
Oh, certainly. If you see a pedestrian approaching an intersection, you have to stop for them. The pedestrians have the right of way when crossing the street at a crosswalk.
Right. And that's regardless of whether there's lights, the
Right. Even if there's not flashing beacons or flashing yellow lights,
yes.
If there's a pedestrian approaching the crosswalk, vehicles must stop.
Vehicles must stop. And that's a state law. That's not a St. Cloud thing, right?
Correct,
so,
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
The whole state of Florida.
Okay. So
Pedestrian, that's a fancy term for somebody who's walking and not in
somebody
a car.
on foot, walking, running, crawling, etc.
Just wanted to make sure we all
Thank
on
you
the
for
same.
that, Jay. Yeah. So this is Jay. Jay is the often silent sidekick, but he always kicks in with good reminders for us. So yes, thank you for that. And honestly, in this corridor, like we've touched on, a lot of our pedestrians, as we like to call them, human beings that are out there walking and so forth. These are kids coming and going to school. So we definitely need to be super cautious in those areas. Timeline-wise, you said we're kind of getting all of the behind-the-scenes things, the paperwork done, the I's dotted, T's crossed, and so forth. Expecting construction to be pretty visible out there by a March timeframe, I would expect.
Yes, certainly.
How long do we expect that to go? And also, talk to me a little bit about the construction schedule, because if I'm a mom trying to drop my kids off at school, like, are you going to be slowing me down again? How's that going to work?
Yes, I'll explain it. So we put very specific rules about when the contractor can be out there working in the contract with that the city entered into. And so during the block of time for drop-off and pickup, they can't close any lanes or sidewalks. Now, Michigan Avenue is a little special. It's got a high school, an elementary school, and a middle school. So it's like a 3.5 hour block in the morning and a 3.5 hour block in the afternoon that they can't work. There's a little bit of time midday that they can do some work, but we're really encouraging the contractor to do the work in the evening and also over the weekends.
Okay, so we're doing what we can to kind of mitigate that impact, because I can imagine, especially with that many schools in that pretty short corridor, that would be kind of a mess if we were closing lanes and slowing me down from dropping my kid off or picking my kid up. So that's good to know. About how long do we expect it to take for completion?
We think it's going to take about 4 to 6 months to complete.
Okay. So if we start kind of March timeframe, work through the summer. I know we always have our summer rainy season, but should be completed in plenty of time for the new school year.
That's our goal, yes.
Awesome. Okay, great. Anything else? Oh, Jay, you look like you have a burning question.
Well, I don't know, because you guys might have discussed this, and I might have just totally zoned out while you were.
Jay, don't zone out. This is good stuff. Come on.
What is the span on Michigan Avenue that this is going to encompass?
Yes, it's from 10th Street down south to 19th Street.
So did we already talk about that before?
We did, but I'm glad you asked it again, because if you zoned out, somebody else probably did too.
Okay, that's cool. Just to make sure we got that covered.
There will be a quiz later,
There
Jay.
will be a quiz later.
Michigan, 10th to 19th.
Okay.
So. All right. Cameron, is there anything about this that we haven't talked about that we need to talk about?
It's just a really important project to the city, especially everyone at Public Works. We're talking about school, children safety. I'm just teaching my daughter to ride her bicycle around our neighborhood, and I'm seeing firsthand cars not stopping, speeding, and I'm on my bike and just certainly a little nervous for everyone involved. So
yes.
I think this is going to do a lot for the safety for school children in the corridor.
Great.
Would it be worthwhile to say that during this time, everybody should maybe exercise a little more patience, because although people will be affected, the outcome is going to be a positive thing?
Definitely. Yes, we can ask everyone to be a little more patient, obviously be a little more cautious in this area when there are people working, when there's cones and barricades up, but it'll be worth it. This is children's safety we're talking about here.
Yeah, the end game is of the utmost importance.
Can't really put a price tag on that one.
Right, especially if it's your kid, right? So, yeah.
For sure.
So, well, Cameron, thank you so much for stopping by today to talk to us about this. We are excited that we're going to be undertaking this project just to make the path to and from school a little safer for our kids and for everyone using that roadway. So, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for stopping by, everybody. That's it for this edition of Cloudcast. Don't forget to like, follow, rate, and review, and we'll see you next time on Cloudcast.